Good morning. I hope you are all safe and well. How are you all doing? Don't know how long you have been in isolation now. I think I'm coming up to 4 weeks now. So I'm here today to talk to you about overcoming overwhelm. And this is something that I have had to do for many, many years. And I'm sure it's something that we all encounter at some point of our lives. So today, I don't want it to just be me talking and then you all nodding off. So today it's going to be very interactive. So I hope you've got a notepad and pen, because I will be asking you some questions and I'd like you to jot down the answers. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Penelope Silver and I'm a certified intuitive life purpose coach. In my coaching, I help people like you who are struggling with overwhelm, and it's my mission to empower, motivate and inspire people to look at their lives from a different perspective and step into a life filled with passion and purpose. Through questioning and coaching skills, I help people determine what their life purpose is, to set clear, healthy boundaries, set action plans, and take inspired, intentional action in their lives. So in my coaching, I get you, through questioning, I get you to make decisions about your own life. I don't sort of give you the answers on a plate and say, this is how you should do it. So it's all down to you. It's all work that you do, not just that I give. Okay, so today I'm going to cover what is overwhelm, what's important to you, why do you feel overwhelmed, and we're going to do 2 great easy activities to help you reduce your overwhelm. And then I'm going to take you from overwhelmed to overwowed. And then we're going to talk about why you shouldn't try to change everything too quickly. And then we're going to do a review and a mini action plan as well. And just for complete transparency, like I said last week, I do have notes, because when I get on these lives, my brain goes completely blank. So that's just real life. Oh, and the other thing I need to apologise for as well is that my daughter may come in. So, and I'm hoping she won't be naked. So if she does, I'll just cover the screen over. But that's also real life. Okay, so what is overwhelm? So the English dictionary definition of overwhelm, it's when your thoughts, emotions or senses are overpowered. Overwhelm can mean different things to different people. So what I'd like you to do now is I'd just like you to have a think about what overwhelm means to you. And then I'd like you to think about your situation right now, here today. Where are you feeling overwhelmed? So, for instance, it could be the 4 walls that you're living in are making you feel overwhelmed, the lack of routine, uncertainty of not knowing when we're going to get out of here. Perhaps you're a parent working from home and you're finding juggling the kids, the work and the house overwhelming, or perhaps it's just life itself. So it could be housework. Could it be that now we're spending more time indoors? I know this has happened to me. I've realized how little time I spent in my house, and now I'm in here, I'm noticing things everywhere that need doing. So does it feel chaotic and messy? I know for my daughter, Charlotte, she has mild OCD. She has days that really get on top of her, but it's not just stuff in the house. It's also stuff, the amount of work that they're setting her at school. She's finding that quite overwhelming as well. And the fact that the work is much more concentrated. So whereas at school, they obviously have their friends in the class which are distracting them or messing around or things like that, it actually breaks the lesson up. This is much more hardcore concentrated work. So she has found that slightly overwhelming. And now a slightly different question that I'd like to ask you. And you can put your answers in the comments as well. I'd love to. I can actually see comments here today. I couldn't last week. So I would love to know, you know, exactly where you're at the moment and how everybody's feeling. So a slightly different question is, do you know your personal signs of overwhelm, and what are they? So if you listened to my talk last week, my little story about bouncing back from adversity, and if you didn't catch it, you can always go back and have a look. I think it's still here in the videos. I talked about the stress of being in debt and fighting off debt collectors and having to go bankrupt. And that ended up, the stress of that and the overwhelm ended up putting me in hospital with digestive problems. And I was vomiting blood and I was in a huge amount of pain. And prior to that, the warning signs were me being really, really anxious, not being able to sleep. I had eczema all over my body. I was making really bad decisions. I was in catastrophic mode thinking, and I was also an emotional wreck. And I was also snapping at my kids and my parents for no reason. I was super clumsy, although I am quite clumsy anyway. I was drinking more to self-soothe, and some days I couldn't. It's quite personal, but I am going to tell you anyway because it did happen. I'm all about, I'll just say it like it is. There were some days I couldn't get off the toilet, and then there was some weeks that I couldn't go to the toilet at all. And I was always catching colds and bugs, and I had a bad habit of picking my skin for hours on end until it bled. So can you relate to any of this? Is it just me, or do you have personal signs of overwhelm? So now we've done that, I'd like you to have a little think back to what your life was like in January. Let's say January, a couple of weeks ago. Joanna says, I'm feeling overwhelmed and frightened with the uncertainties of these times. I think there's a lot of people feeling like that at the moment. I have personal signs. What are your personal signs, Joanna? How do they sort of manifest for you? I'll just wait while she types. So thinking back to January, how was life different then? So I'm guessing the overwhelm and the stress was coming from different areas. I know that for me, it definitely was. And even if I think back to the way that my life was before I started this business, my overwhelm came from trying to do everything. So, you know, the commute to work, trying to get the kids to school, trying to fit everything in. So I've actually put here, so where was the overwhelm coming from in January? Was it long time wasting commutes? Was it the traffic? Crazy packed diary full of meetings, endless kids sports activities, trying to pack in a social life? For me, it's been endless hospital appointments with Natasha, trying to be everything and everyone to everyone, and jam packing stuff into the day, trying to people please, having an enormous to-do list with no focus on priorities, having a lack of concept of time, overbooking myself. I did that twice. That was really bad. Double booked myself. That was a nightmare. I was so embarrassed. Having no boundaries or not sticking to boundaries that you've set. And as most women will probably relate to this, multitasking 24 hours a day. So Joanna's put, like you, my stomach with indigestion and going to the loo. I think a lot of my clients have that. And I was thinking as well, I don't know whether you do this. I know I'm being really personal here, but a lot of thoughts come to me while I'm in the shower. So when I was in the shower before, I was thinking about the overwhelm that my fertility clients have when they come to me. So a lot of them are successful business women who have really, really high-powered careers, high stress, and then the overwhelm on top of that comes from trying to get pregnant. So trying to fit in all the things that they need to do in order to try and get pregnant. So whether that's, you know, having a really, really strict diet, or cutting out alcohol and things like that, and having this regime that actually can sometimes be so intense that can create overwhelm in itself. And then I was thinking as well about my other ladies that come to me who are going through a certain change in their life, and their overwhelm hits them in the morning. So they wake up with morning anxiety. And then they start thinking about all the things that they've got to do in the day and other stuff as well. And that can be overwhelming for them. So I don't know about you, but that list kind of made me feel a little overwhelmed just thinking about it. So flipping back now to the time when I was in hospital, and I also said this last week as well, whilst I was in there, I made the resolve that no one would take me away from my children ever again. So part of this resolve, when I looked at it, I was looking at the things that were making me feel overwhelmed and stressed and things like that. And I then set about creating a plan of how I was going to deal with it. So one of the things I decided to do was to stop worrying, because what I realized that all this worrying was getting me exactly nowhere except from lying in a hospital bed. And I don't know whether you've ever seen a film, Bridge of Spies, with Tom Hanks. He plays a lawyer. And he asked his client, who's being accused of being a spy, aren't you worried? And his answer was, would it help? And that's kind of stuck with me. So then there's another quote that I really, really like. And it says, wherever you are, be all there. And that's by Jim Elliot. So that means whatever you're doing at whatever one given point of time, make sure you're present. So whether it's with your kids or your partner or the work that you're doing, or whether you're cooking or cleaning, anything like that, be present in the moment rather than doing that whole thinking of other things you should be doing or doing about 10 things at a time. So now I'd like you to think about what's important to you in your life. So what do you value the most? And I'd like you to type in the comments the things that really matter to you. So, for example, I mean, you'll have your own things, but it could be family, friends, connection, I guess, is a big one right this minute. Freedom, being in nature, spirituality, or obviously another big one at the moment is health. And so, because I'm a mum, I'm going to say, for me, just for the example, it's family, and specifically my kids. So during the past few weeks, there's been raised voices, slamming of doors, and it's all been over Natasha's homeschooling, which is now solely in my hands. And I've never done homeschooling before. And about 6 months ago, I connected with some women in another group, and they were talking about how they homeschooled their kids, and I thought, oh my god, that is sounds like my worst nightmare. And now it's come true. So anyway, I've created this timetable for her in my true project management style, which is quite structured and quite intense, but anyway, that's the way it is. She doesn't agree with half of it. And so I've felt like I've been banging my head against a brick wall, and it's been getting quite overwhelming for me, and I've been feeling quite stressed about it. So what I do is I stop and I ask myself, what do you need to do right now in order to be happy? Do you need anything other than what is happening right now in order to be happy? And at the end of the day, my kids are my happiness. So is it worth fighting over, really? And the other thing I do as well is I remember to breathe. So pause, take a deep breath, and then sort of calmly think about the situation. Because what I do know is that when I start to feel overwhelmed, I start to freeze and my breath gets quite shallow, and that makes everything worse. Sometimes I start to flush, I get like, sweats, things like that. So I try to calm myself down. And I also say in my head, just breathe. And after I've paused, I think to myself, this is my rational head speaking. She's done 5 hours of schoolwork today anyway. Is it really the end of the world? Oh, I can't speak. Is it really the end of the world if she doesn't stick to her timetable 100% today? And actually, the answer's no, and the stress is gone. So the other thing I like to do is check in with what does this feeling feel like, and where do I feel it in my body? So it's checking in with everything that's going on. So I then try to stay with those sensations for as long as possible and be curious about them and be open to them. And this works with other things as well. So it works with fear, distraction, procrastination, frustration, quite a lot of things. And once I've sort of gone into those sensations and become quite mindful of them and sort of almost meditated on them for a few moments, I ask myself, what's the most loving thing I can do for myself and for others right now? And then I get to it. Or the other thing I do is I shift my attention to my feet against the ground, and I imagine roots growing out of the soles of my feet and into the earth, connecting me down. Because I think that, I don't know about you, but a lot of the time I spend most of my time in my head. So I like to get out of there sometimes. So that little exercise helps me gently bring my energy down, but also makes me feel more grounded as well. It's so easy to do. Give it a go. Just try it and let me know how you get on with it. So then I've just put, what would be the worst thing if the outcome doesn't go the way that you want? So what would be the worst thing if the kids don't stick to their homeschooling timetable 100%? The fear of the unknown is generally far worse than the fear of something specific. So this is the first activity I'm going to give you to reduce overwhelm. Now, a lot of clients come to me as well with sleep issues. So they either can't go to sleep or they wake up in the night multiple times and then can't get back to sleep because the head starts going overtime, normally around 3, 4, half 4 in the morning. So I suggest that they keep a notepad and pen by the bed and they do a brain dump and get everything down onto paper. So it can be anything, but you can do this any time of the day as well. So if you sat there and you think, oh, I've got so much to do, don't even know where to start. So then you just think, right, I'm not going to even bother starting. I'll go lie on the couch and watch Netflix. Just write a list. So it could be anything like, I'm thinking back to before we were in here actually, but it'd be like things that you need in a shopping list, or deciding on someone's birthday present, that can take me days, booking hospital appointments, taking meter readings, doing your accounts, feeding the cat, or we feed the budgie, finishing a project at work, or scheduling a meeting or something like that, or writing a blog or anything. Write it all down, get it down, or any thoughts that are, worrying you in your head. And then what I do is I don't divide it into groups. So we have categories like stuff for the home, stuff for house bills, things that must be done, things that would be done either this week, this month, or next month, or things like that. And then the other thing I like to do is I like to ask 2 questions. Does it have to be done? And does it have to be done by me? And the second one I really like, because then I can delegate it off to other people, especially like feeding the budgie, and things like that. So the other thing that I do as well is I am an EFT practitioner. Now, if you don't know what EFT is, it's called Emotional Freedom Technique, or tapping. And so another great way to reduce overwhelm is to tap away those feelings of overwhelm. So let's take Joanna's feelings of feeling overwhelmed and frightened with the uncertainties of this time, and she can feel it as well in her stomach, like indigestion. So this is just a very, very brief overview. If you want any more help with this, please feel free to PM me, or have a look at what's on my website and stuff, because there is stuff there on tapping. But I'm mindful that I've only got 10 minutes left. So I'm just going to show you very quickly about tapping. So tapping is a bit like acupuncture, but it's without the needles, and it works on the meridian lines of the body, whereas the Reiki I do works on the chakras, which are the energy vortexes down your body which feed into the meridian lines. So what we do is we tap on the acupressure points around the body. So you would sit, generally when I'm working with clients, I sit opposite them. We sit on a chair with our feet flat on the floor. So that's that grounding part again. And then you think of what is making you overwhelmed, and you would then rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. So 10 being the worst and 1 not really bothering you at all. And then what we do is we do the tapping sequence. We go through it until those numbers drop. And then once we get to around a 3, then I'd be looking to start introducing positive affirmations to replace the negative thoughts that you had been thinking. So you would start off with, and again, this isn't the whole thing, that you do this for quite a while. I'm just literally going to do 1 round for you now so you can get an idea. So you would start by tapping on the side of the hand here, which is what they call a karate chop. And you would start off by saying, even though I'm feeling overwhelmed and frightened with the uncertainties of the times, and I feel it in my stomach with indigestion, and it makes me go to the loo. And those are exactly Joanna's words, because the way that it works better is if you use your own words rather than somebody else's. So definitely when I'm working with clients, I don't put the words into their mouth. I let them use their own words. So we would do this about, some people do it once, some people do it 3 times. It's whatever you've been taught or whatever you feel comfortable with. And then we move to the top of the eyebrow. So all this overwhelm, this feeling of being frightened, the uncertainties of these times, all these feelings of overwhelm, these feelings of being frightened, all this uncertainty. I can feel it in my stomach. All this overwhelm and frightened. So you would do that literally on repeat. You'd have a pause in between each round, and then you'd recheck in with yourself and you'd say, is it still a 10? Has it dropped to an 8 or a 7 or a 5? And then you'd check in with your body as well, and you'd say, do I still feel it in my stomach? Is there a colour associated with it? Is there a shape associated with it? What you might find as well is that feeling might move from your tummy and it might move around your body a bit. So what you want to do is, when you're doing the tapping, you want to follow it around those different places as well. But you want to keep tapping until you've got those numbers down, because if you don't get the numbers right down to either a 1 or a 0, it's still there. But what I would say is, when I did it when I was being taught, we had to we did it on cravings. So we had to take in the thing that we loved the most, that we craved the most, and mine was Haribo sweets. And at the beginning of the day's training, I've got my packet of Haribo in front of me, which I used to eat maybe 5 packets a day because I love them so much. And it was a particular one. It's the stripes, the one in the little wrappers. They're my favorite. And so I could not drive past a garage without buying these sweets and eating the whole packet in one go. And we sat there and she said, right, I want you to think about these sweets. And I hadn't opened the packet, but she got us to really tap into the feelings. So how the sweets smell, how they tasted. And like, I'm thinking about these sweets and my mouth was salivating. We did this tapping. It didn't take that long either. And it didn't cross my mind until the end of the day. I think it was about 5:30, the day's training finished. And she said, okay, I want you to have a look in front of you now. And I realised that packet of Haribo had been there all day, unopened. And sadly, to this day, because I got my numbers right down to a 0, I have never eaten a packet of Haribo again. So what I would do then is, if I was working with a client, I would say, do you want to never eat Haribo again, or do you want to maybe eat them sometimes? So in that instance, I wouldn't come right down. But if we're feeling overwhelmed at the moment, I think we'd want to get those numbers right down. So going from overwhelm to overwhelmed, be realistic about the time that you have and try not to put too much into one day. Keep things simple. I know that when I start getting overwhelmed and stressed, for some reason, I start to put more on my plate. Like, I start saying yes to more stuff, and I start buying more courses and buying more books and things like that. And what ends up happening is I don't end up doing any of them, and it makes me feel crap about myself. So learn to say no to stuff. Get rid of the I don't want to do tasks. So palm them off to your children or your partner or something. Let go of perfectionism. This is something I've had to learn through my life. So I used to be a perfectionist. I'm not saying I ever got there, but my goal was to be a perfectionist. I thought that's what I was striving towards. And I've slightly changed that now. So my goal is now excellence. So as long as I can do the best that I can do to the best of my abilities, that's okay with me. And it's taken away that overwhelm of that perfectionism. Allocate chunks of time. So if you've ever worked doing time chunking or time blocking, it is so helpful. It really, really does work. The other thing that I do as well is when I do my time chunks, I always have a break. So with the girls, when they're studying, I always say 25 minutes, then have a 5-minute break, 5-10-minute break, and then go back to it. When I'm working, I like to work for about 50 minutes. Then I get up, and just for 5 minutes, I'll get up, I'll walk around, do some stretching, maybe a bit of Tabata or something like that, just to get my body moving and the blood flowing again, and to get off my arse, which has normally gone to sleep after about 50 minutes. I used to do meditation, but then and sat where I was, but I realized that it was better for me to get up and move around and then come back. And then I found I was much more productive and I had more focus. So be disciplined. Stop making excuses and just start. Work to your best times of day. So this is the other thing I found as a project manager. I found that if I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and did 3 hours solid work before I went to work, I could get a whole day's work done in those 3 hours because I had no distractions around me. I'm not saying you have to do that while we're at home, but find a time of day where you can get a load of stuff done in one go. Set clear boundaries and stick to them. Create the overall task list and then set them in order of priority. The other thing that I was taught years and years ago, and you probably know about this, is do the tasks that you hate. Do the tasks that you hate the most first, because they're done, they're out of the way for the day, and then all you've got to look forward to is nice stuff in the day. Reflect and adapt. And don't forget to make time to play and for self-care. So why you shouldn't change everything too quickly. What can happen if you do this? Once you've made the decision to change, choose maybe 10 strategies. Because if you try to do everything, you're going to create more overwhelm, and at worst, you're going to fail, and then the overwhelm continues. So it's really important that you take baby steps to start with and then build it up. So there is a word that reduces overwhelm, and that overwhelm is choice. You always have a choice about what you do in your day and how you do it, or who does it. We always have a choice. So if you were to make better choices, what would they be? And then think about, where does your time go? So think about your typical day. Where are you wasting time? So is it people that are stealing your time? Are you just wasting time? Do you have scrolling through social media time where you can get sucked in for hours on end? Like, if you think about that time that you're scrolling through social media mindlessly, imagine what you could do. Charlotte said to me she got into TikTok, and she said she realized she'd been just scrolling for 4 hours once. Imagine what you could do with 4 hours. The other thing that is a time suck for me is responding to emails. So do they really need responding to immediately, or is there something more important that you should be doing? I think I mentioned it before, shiny object syndrome. So when I get stressed, I think, I'll just buy another course, or I'll just do this, or I'll sign up to this workshop. And then that creates a bit more overwhelm for me. So be really intentional and purposeful with your time. Think about as well, how many times are you revisiting the same job because they've not completed, or you don't finish them till the 11th hour. So rather than flitting from one thing to the next, just get that thing done and then move on to the next thing. So does anybody have any tips that they'd like to share about how they plan their day? I'd love to know, because we're in a community here and we can all help each other. So I would love to. I'm just wondering if I'm missing. I'm not used to this live thing. You think I would be by now? I can't scroll down. It's not letting me. Okay, so what might make your day easier for you? That's another question I like to ask over and over. And then the other thing, if you are interested, I created for myself. So I actually did this before we went into isolation, but it's keeping me on track at the moment. So I created this magical daily success habits planner. So it's really my miracle morning, so things I do before I do work, and then my bedtime routine as well, with a couple of stuff thrown in. So it says I wake up at 5:45 every day, then I do my meditation for 15 minutes, then I do my affirmations, then I do Joe Wicks. I do goal setting, I do my Elevate brain training app for 15 minutes. And then I've got stuff on there as well, like having a raw juice or my supplements or studying or journaling. And then at evening, it's do my yoga, do reading, do my gratitude before bed, ask what else is possible. Always ask that every night. I do an activation meditation. And then there's another section on there as well, which is stuff that I like to do for work, to keep me accountable as well, to make sure I'm doing it. So it's, have I created all my social media posts for the week? Have I scheduled them all? On a Sunday, have I prepared for the week ahead? Have I connected with 10 people in DMs? Have I done my sales calls on a Monday? Have I done I don't call it a newsletter anymore, I call it love letter, to my, so things like that. And it just keeps me, oh, hang on. I still set an alarm in isolation. It gives me a purpose to get up and get motivated. That's great. Ingrid. Oh, happy birthday, by the way, Ingrid. I need to start setting my alarm again because I've lost my routine. Well, if you think that this will help, it's just a spreadsheet that I created and you can edit it to fit in your own life. If you want me to send you that, just PM me and I'm quite happy to send it you. And hopefully it might help us be more, I don't know, accountable and reduce the overwhelm. So I've gone a little bit over, so I'm going to really whiz through this. Are you willing to take responsibility for the part that you're playing in your overwhelm? Go back to your brain dump and what are the key areas that you really want to focus on? So, really get honed in on that. What boundaries do you need to set? What simple practice could you put into your daily routine to start reducing your overwhelm? What do you need to spend less time doing? And what support or resources may help you? And then there's a really big question. When are you going to start doing it? So I hope you've enjoyed today's session. And please do, if you think this will help other people that you know, please do share it either on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. If you want any more support or you would like a copy of that Success Habits Tracker, please just send me a message. Next week's session is going to be on developing an attitude of gratitude, and that's really important for keeping a positive mindset and attracting positive things into your life. And with that in mind, and for me being so grateful that you stayed to the end, there's 10 people stayed to the end, so that's amazing. Thank you so much. I'd like to invite you to, I'm doing a 5-day free vision board challenge, which starts on the 20th of April. And this will also help you get laser focused on how to make the most out of the next 3 months without the overwhelm. So, it's a chance for you to make a difference in your life, and also about creating the best version of yourself right now. And we've been given this great gift of time and space to be able to do that. So it's also going to help you think about where your attention should be focused. And it's really fun and interactive. So I'll drop the link below. So the last thing is I want to tell you a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it says, "Finish each day and be done with it. You've done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. You shall begin it serenely and with too high a spirit to be encumbered with your old nonsense." So I hope you find that inspiring. I hope you've enjoyed today, and I hope I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye.